Solomon asked for wisdom. First, Solomon, son of David, established himself firmly over his kingdom. For the Lord his God was within him and made him exceedingly great. Then Solomon spoke to all Israel, to the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds, to the judges and to all the leaders in Israel, the heads of families, and Solomon and the whole assembly went to the high place at Gibeon. For God's tent of meeting was there, which Moses, the Lord's servant, had made in the wilderness. Now David had brought up the ark of God from Kiriath Yearim to the place he had prepared for it, because he had pitched a tent for it in Jerusalem. But the bronze altar that Bezalel, son of Uri, the son of Hur, had made was in Gibeon, in front of the tabernacle of the Lord. So Solomon and the assembly inquired of him there. Solomon went up to the bronze altar before the Lord in the tent of meeting, and offered 1,000 burnt offering on it. Then God appeared to Solomon and said to him, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." Solomon answered God, "You have shown great kindness to David my father, and have made me king in his place. Now, Lord God, let your promise to my father David be confirmed, for you have made me king over people who are as numerous as the dust of the earth. Give me wisdom and knowledge, that I may lead this people, for who is able to govern this great people of yours?" God said to Solomon, "Since this is your heart's desires, and you have not asked for wealth, positions, or honor, nor for the death of your enemies, and since you have not asked for long life, but for wisdom and knowledge to govern my people, over whom I have made you king. Therefore wisdom and knowledge will be given you, and I will also give you wealth, positions, and honors, such as no king who was before you have had, and none after you will have." Then Solomon went to Jerusalem from the high place at Gibeon, from before the tent of meeting, and he reigned over Israel. Solomon accumulated chariot and horses. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horses, which he kept in the chariot cities, and also with him in Jerusalem. The king made silver and gold as common in Jerusalem as stones, and cedar as plentiful as sycamore fig tree in the Pulse hills. Solomon's horses were imported from Egypt and from Ku. The royal merchant purchased them from Ku at the current price. They imported a chariot from Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. They also exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and of the Arameans. Preparations for building the temple. Solomon gave orders to build a temple for the name of the Lord and a royal palace for himself. He consecrated 90,000 men as carriers and 80,000 as stone cutters in the hills, and 30,600 as poor men of them. Solomon sent this message to Hiram, king of Tyre: "Send me cedar logs as you did for my father David when you sent him cedar to build a palace to live in. Now I am about to build a temple for the name of the Lord my God, and to dedicate it to him for burning fragrant incense before him, for setting out the consecrated bread regularly, and for making burnt offering every morning and every evening, and on the Sabbaths, at the new moons, and at the appointed festivals of the Lord our God. This is a lasting audience for Israel. The temple I am going to build will be great, because our God is greater than all other gods. But who is able to build a temple for him, since the heavens and even the highest heavens cannot contain him? Who then am I to build a temple for him, except as a place to burn sacrifices before him? Send me therefore a man skilled to work in gold and silver, bronze and iron, and in purple, crimson and blue yarn, and experienced in the art of engraving, to work in Judah and Jerusalem with my skilled workers, whom my father David provided. Send me also cedars, juniper, and algum logs from Lebanon, for I know that your servants are skilled in cutting timber there. My servants will work with yours to provide me with plenty of lumber, because the temple I build must be large and magnificent. I will give your servants the woodsmen who cut the timber 20,000 cores of ground wheat, 20,000 cores of barley, 20,000 vessels of wine, and 20,000 vessels of olive oil. Hiram, king of Tyre, replied by letter to Solomon, because the Lord loves his people, he has made you their king. And Hiram added, Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, who made the heavens and earth. He gave King David a wise son, endowed with intelligence and discernment, who will build a temple for the Lord and a place for himself. I am sending you Huram Abi, a man of great skill, whose mother was from Dan and whose father was from Tyre. He is trained to work in gold and silver, bronze and iron, stone and wood, and with purple and blue and crimson yarn and pine lining. He is experienced in all kinds of engraving and can execute any design given to him. He will work with your skilled workers and with those of my lord David your fathers. Now let my lord send his servant the wheat and the barley and the olive oil and the wine he promised, and we will cut all the logs from Lebanon that you need, and will float them as lepers by sea down to Joppa. You can then take them up to Jerusalem. Solomon took a census of all the foreigners residing in all Israel. After the census his father David had taken, and they were found to be 153,600. He assigned 70,000 of them to be carriers, and 80,000 to be stone cutters in the hills, with 3,600 per man over them to keep the people working. Solomon builds the temple, chapter 3. Then Solomon began to build the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where the Lord had appeared to his father David. It was on the threshing floor of Aranau, the Yebusht, the place provided by David. He began building on the second day of the second month in the fourth year of his reign. The foundation Solomon laid for building the temple of God was 60 cubits long and 20 cubits wide. Using the cubit of the old standard, the portico at the front of the temple was 20 cubits long across the width of the building and 20 cubits high. He overlaid the inside with pure gold. He paneled the main hall with juniper and covered it with the fine gold and decorated it with palm tree and chain design. He adorned the temple with precious stone, and the gold he used was gold of Pavilion. He overlaid the ceiling beams, door frames, walls, and doors of the temple with gold, and he carved a cherubim on the walls. He built the most holy place, each ranks corresponding to the width of the temple, 20 cubits long and 20 cubits wide. He overlaid the inside with 600 talents of fine gold. The gold nails weighed 50 shekels. He also overlaid the upper parts with gold. For the most holy place, he made a pair of sculptures, cherubim, and overlaid them with gold. The total wisdom of the cherubim was 20 cubits. One wing of the first cherubim was 5 cubits long and touched the temple wall, while its other wing also 5 cubits long. touched the wing of the other cherubim. Similarly, one wing of the one wing of the second cherub was 5 cubits long and touched the other templed wall, and each other wing also 5 cubits long. Touched the wing of the first cherub. The wings of these cherubim extended 20 cubits. They stood on their feet facing the main hall. He made a curtain of blue purple and crimson ears and crimson yarn and fine linen with the cherubim worked into it. For the front of the temple he made 2 pillars, which together were 35 cubits long, each with a capital 5 cubits high. He made into woven chains and put them on top of the pillar. He also made 100 pomegranates and attached them to the chains. He erected the pillars in the front of the temple, one to the south and one to the north. The one to the south he named Check-in, and the one to the north Boaz. The temple's furnishings. He made chapter 4 a bronze altar 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 10 cubits high. He made a sea of cast mirror, circular and shape, measuring 10 cubits from rim to rim and 5 cubits high. It took a line of 30 cubits to measure around it. Below the rim, figures of bulls encircled it. 10 to a cubit, the bulls were cast in 2 rows in one piece with the sea. The sea stood on 12 bulls, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. The sea rested on top of them, and their hindquarters were toward the center. It was handbreadth and in thickness, and each rim was like the rim of a cup, like a lily blossom. It had 3,000 bases. He then made 10 basins for washing and placed 5 on the south side and 5 on the north. In them, the things to be used for the burnt offering were rinsed, but the sea was to be used by the priest for wasting. He made 10 gold lampstands according to the specification for them, and placed them in the temple, 5 on the south side and 5 on the north. He made 10 tables and placed them in the temple, 5 on the south side and 5 on the north. He also made 100 gold sprinkling bowls. He made a courtyard of the priest, and a large court and the doors for the court, and overlaid the doors with bronze. He placed the sea on the south side at the southeast corner. And Huram also made hosts and shovels and sprinkling bowls. So Huram finished the work he had undertaken for King Solomon in the temple of God. The 2 pillars, the 2 bowl-shaped capitals on top of the pillars, the 2 sets of network decorating the 2 bowl-shaped capitals on top of the pillars, the 400 pomegranates for the 2 sets of network, 2 rows of pomegranates for each network, decorating the bowl-shaped capitals on the top of the pillar. The stands with their basin, the sea, and the 12 bulls on it, the post shovels, meat, forks, and all related articles. All the objects that Huram Abi made for King Solomon for the temple of the Lord were of polished bronze. The king and the king had them cast in clay molds in the plain of the Jordan between Sukkot and Zaretan. All these things that Solomon made amount to so much that the weight of the bronze could not be calculated. Solomon also made all the furnishings that were in God's temple, the golden altar, the tables on which was the bread of the presence, the lampstand of pure gold with their lamps to burn in front of the inner sanctuary as prescribed, the gold floral work and the lamps and the tongue They were solid gold, the pure gold with streamers sprinkling both dishes and censers, and the gold doors of the temple, the inner doors to the most holy place, and the doors of the main hall. Chapter 5. When all the work Solomon had done for the temple of the Lord was finished, he brought in the things his father David had dedicated, the silver and the gold and all the furnishing, and he placed them in the treasuries of God's temple. The ark brought to the temple. Then Solomon summoned to Jerusalem the elders of Israel, all the heads of the tribes, and the chiefs of the Israelite families, to bring up the ark of the Lord's covenant from Zion, the city of David. And all the Israelites came together to the king at the time of the festival in the 7th month. When all the elders of Israel had arrived, the Levites took up the ark, and they brought up the ark and the tent of meeting, and all the sacred furnishing in it. The Levitical priest carried them up, and King Solomon and the entire assembly of Israel had gathered about him were before the ark, sacrificing so many sheep and cattle that they could not be recorded or uncounted. The priest then brought the ark of the Lord's covenant to each place in the inner sanctuary of the temple, the most holy place, and put it beneath the wings of the cherubim. The cherubim spread their wings over the breast of the ark and covered the ark and its carrying poles. These poles were so long that their ends, extending from the ark, could be seen from in front of the inner sanctuary, but not from outside the holy place. And they still there today. There was nothing in the ark except the two tablets that Moses had placed in it at Horeb, where the Lord made a covenant with the Israelites after they came out of Egypt. The priest then withdrew from the holy place. All the priests who were there had consecrated themselves regardless of their division. All the Levites who were musicians, Asaph, Herman, Yedutun, and their sons and relatives, stood on the east side of the altar, addressed in the fine line and playing cymbals, harps, and lilies. They were accompanied by 120 priests sounding trumpets. The trumpet and the musicians joined in union to give praise and thanks to the Lord. Accompanied by trumpets, cymbals, and other instruments, the singers raised their voice in praise to the Lord and sang, "He is good, his love endures forever." Then the temple of the Lord was filled with the cloud, and the priests could not perform their service because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the temple of God. Chapter 6. Then Solomon said, "The Lord has said that he would dwell in a dark cloud. I have built a magnificent temple for you, a place for you to dwell forever." While the whole assembly of Israel was standing there, the king turned around and blessed them. Then he said, "Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, who with his hands has fulfilled what he promised with his mouth to my father David. For he said, 'Since the day I brought my people out of Egypt, I have not chosen a city in any tribe of Israel to have a temple built so that my name might be there. Nor have I chosen anyone to be ruler over my people Israel. But now I have chosen Jerusalem for my name to be there, and I have chosen David to rule my people Israel. My father David had it in his heart to build a temple for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. But the Lord said to my father David, You did well to have it in your heart to build a temple for my name. Nevertheless, you are not the only one to build the temple, but your son, your own flesh and blood. He is the one who will build the temple for my name. The Lord has kept the promise he made. I have succeeded, David, my father, and now I sit on the throne of Israel, just as the Lord promised, and I have built the temple for the name of the Lord, the gods of Israel. There I have placed the ark, in which is the covenant of the Lord that he made with the peoples of Israel. Solomon's prayer of dedication. Then Solomon stood before the altar of the Lord in front of the whole assembly of Israel and spread out his hands. Now he had made a bronze platform 5 cubits long, 5 cubits wide, and 3 cubits high, and had placed it in the center of the outer court. He stood on the platform and then knelt down before the whole assembly of Israel and spread out his hands toward heaven. He said, Lord, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven or on earth, you who keep your covenant of love with your servant, who continue wholeheartedly in your way. You have kept your promise to your servant David my father. With your mouth you have promised, and with your hand you have fulfilled it, as it is today. Now, Lord, the God of Israel, keep for your servant David my father the promise you made to him when you said, You shall never fail to have a success to sit before me on the throne of Israel. If only your descendants are careful in all they do to walk before me according to my law, as you have done. And now, Lord, the God of Israel, let your word that you promised your servant David come true. But will God really dwell on earth with humans? The heavens, even the highest of heavens, cannot contain you. How much less the temple I have built? Yet, Lord my God, give attention to your servant's prayer and his prayer for mercy. Hear the cry and the prayers that your servant is praying in your presence. May your eyes be open toward this temple day and night, this place of which you said you would put your name there. May you hear the prayer your servant prays toward this place. Hear the supplication of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Hear from heaven your dwelling place, and when you hear, forgive. When anyone wrongs their neighbor and is required to take an oath, and they come and swear the oath before your altar in this temple, then hear from heaven and act justly between your servant, condemning the guilty and bringing down on their heads what they have done, and vindicating the innocent by threatening them in accordance with their innocence. When you people Israel have been defeated by an enemy because they have sinned against you, and when they turn back and give praise to your name, praying and making supplication before you in this temple, then hear from heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them back to the land you gave to them and their ancestors. When the heavens are shut up and there is no rain because your people have sinned against you, and when they pray to us this praise and give praise to your name and return from their sin because you have afflicted them, then hear from heaven and forgive the sin of your servant, your people Israel. Teach them the right way to live, and send rain on the land you gave your people for an inheritance. When famine or plagues comes to the land, and blight or mildew, locust or grasshoppers, or when enemies besiege them in any of their cities, whatever disaster or disease may come, and when a prayer or a plea is made by anyone among your people Israel, being aware of their application and pains, and spreading out their hands toward this temple, then hear from heaven, you dwelling place, forgive and dwell with everyone according to all they do, since you know their hearts, for you alone know the human heart, so that they will fear you and walk in obedience to you all the time they lived in the land you gave our ancestors. As for the foreigners who does not belong to your people Israel, but has come from a distant land because of your great name, and you might hand and your outstretched arm, when they come and pray toward this temple. Then hear from heaven your dwelling place, do whatever the foreigners ask of you, so that all the peoples of the earth may know your name and fear you, as do your own people Israel, and may know that this house I have built hears your name. When your people go to war against their enemies wherever you send them, and when they pray to you toward this city you have chosen and the temple and I have built for your name, then hear from heaven their prayers and their plea, and uphold their cause. When they sin against you, for there is no one who does not sin, and you become angry and with them, and give them over to the enemy, who takes them captive to land far away or near. And if they have a change of heart in the land where they are held captive, and repent and plead with you in the land of the captive, and say, we have sinned, we have done wrong and acted wickedly. And if they turn back to you with all their hearts and soul in the land of their captive where they were taken, and pray toward to the land you gave their ancestors, toward the city you have chosen, and toward the temple I have built for your name, then from heaven your dwelling place hear their prayer and their prayers, and uphold their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you. Now, my God, may your eyes be open and your ears attentive to the prayers offered in this place. Now arise, Lord God, and come to your resting place, you and the ark of your might. May your priest, Lord God, be clothed with salvation. May your faithful people rejoice in your goodness. Lord God, do not reject your anointed one. Remember the great love promised to David your servant. The dedication of the temple. When Solomon finished praying, fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifice, and the glory of the Lord filled the temple. The priest could not enter the temple of the Lord, because the glory of the Lord filled it. When all the Israelites saw the fire coming down and the glory of the Lord above the temple, they knelt on the pavement with their faces to the ground, and they worshipped and gave thanks to the Lord, saying, He is good, His love endures forever. Then the king and all the people offered a sacrifice before the Lord, and King Solomon offered a sacrifice of 22,000 head of cattle and 120,000 sheep and goats. So the king and all the people dedicated the temple of God. The priests took their positions and did the Levites with the Lord's musical instruments, which King David had made for praising Lord, and which were used when we gave thanks, saying, His love endures forever. Opposite it, the Levites, the priests, blew their triumphs, and all the Israelites were standing. Solomon consecrated the middle part of the courtyard in front of the temple of the Lord, and there he offered burnt offering and the fat of the fellowship offering, because the bronze altar he had made could not hold the burnt offering, the grain offerings, and the fat portion. So Solomon observed the festival at that time for 7 days, and all Israel with him a vast assembly, people from Lebo Hamas to the Wadi of Egypt. On the 80th day, they held an assembly for they had celebrated the dedication of the altar for 7 days, and the festival for 7 days more. On the 23rd day of the 7th month, he sent the people to their homes, joyful and glad in heart for the good things the Lord had done for David and Solomon had for his people Israel. The Lord appears to Solomon. When Solomon had finished the temple of the Lord and the royal palace, and he had succeeded in carrying out all he had in mind to do in the temple of the Lord, and in his own place, the Lord appeared to him at night and said, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place for myself as a temple for sacrifice. When I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or command the locusts to devour the lands, or send a plague among my people, if my people who are called by name, my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sins and will heal their lands. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to the prayers offered in this place. I have chosen and consecrated this temple so that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my will always be there. As for you, if you walk before me peaceably as David your father did, and do all I command, and observe my decrees and laws, I will establish your royal throne as I covenant with David your father when I said, you shall never fail to have a successor to rule over Israel. I have chosen and consecrated this temple so that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my heart will always be there. 앞에 있었네요. 19. But if you turn away and forsake the decrees and the commands I have given you, and go up to serve other gods and worship them, then I will uproot Israel from my land, which I have given them, and will reject this temple I have consecrated for my name. I will make it a byword and an object of ridicule among all people. So this temple will become a heap of rubble. All who pass by will be appalled and say, why has the Lord done such a thing to this land and to this temple? People will answer, because they have forsaken Lord, the God of their ancestors, who brought them out of Egypt, and have embraced of the other gods, worshiping and serving them. That is why He brought all this disaster on them. Solomon's other activities in chapter 8. At the end of 20 years, during which Solomon built the temple of the Lord and his own place, Solomon rebuilt the villages that Hiram and given him, and settled Israelites in them. Solomon then went to Hamath Java and captured it. He also built up Tadmor in the desert and all the store cities he had built in Hamath. He rebuilt Upper Beth Horon and Lower Beth Horon as fortified cities with walls and with gates and bars, as well as Valhallas and all his stores cities and all the cities for his chariots and for his horses. Whatever he desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and throughout all the territory he rules. There was still people left. Whatever he desired to build Jerusalem in Lebanon and throughout all territory he ruled. There were still people left from the Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. These people were not Israelites. Solomon consecrated the descendants of all these people remaining in the land, whom the Israelites had not destroyed, to serve as slave labor, as it is to this day. But Solomon did not there were still people left from the Hittite, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. These people were not Israelites. Solomon consecrated the descent of all the people remaining in the land, whom the Israelites had not destroyed, to serve as slave labor, as it is to this day. But Solomon did not make slaves of the Israelites for his work. They were his fighting men, commanders of his captain, and commanders of his chariots and charioteers. They were also King Solomon's chief officials, 250 officials supervising the men. Solomon brought Pharaoh's daughter up from the city of David to the places he had built for her. For he said, the king of Israel, because the place the ark of the Lord has entered are holy. On the altar of the Lord that he had built in front of the portico, Solomon sacrificed burnt offering to the Lord according to the daily requirement of offerings commanded by Moses for the Sabbaths, the new moons, and the 3 annual festivals: the festival of unleavened bread, the festival of weeks, and the festival of tabernacles. In keeping with the ordinance of his father David, he appointed the divisions of the priests for their duties, and the Levites to lead the priest and to assist the priest according to each day's requirement. He also appointed the gatekeeper. 5 divisions for the various gates, because this was what David, the man of God, had ordered. They did not divide from the king's commands to the priest or to the Levites in any matter, including that of the treasury. All Solomon's work was carried out from the day the foundation of the temple of the Lord was laid until its completion. So the temple of the Lord was finished. The Solomon went to Ezion-Geber and Elas on the coast of Edom, and Hiram sent him ships commanded by his own men. Sailors who knew the seas, these with Solomon's men, sailed to Ophir and brought back 450 talents of gold, which they delivered to King Solomon. The king of Sheba visited Solomon. Chapter 9. When the king of Sheba has heard of Solomon's fame, and she came to Jerusalem to test him with a hard question. Arriving with a very great caravan with camels carrying spices, large quantity of gold, and precious stones, she came to Solomon and talked with him about all she had on her mind. Solomon answered all her questions. Nothing was too hard for him to explain to her. When the king of Sheba saw the wisdom of Solomon, as well as the palace he had built, the food on his table, the seating of all when the king of Sheba saw the wisdom of Solomon, as well as the Solomon answered all her questions. Nothing was too hard for him to explain to her. When the king of Sheba saw the wisdom of Solomon, as well as the palace he had built, the food on his table, the seating of his officials, the attending servants in their robes, the cupbearers in their robes, and the burnt offering he made at the temple of the Lord, she was overwhelmed. She said to the king, "The report I heard in my own country about your achievement and your wisdom is true, but I did not believe what they say until I came and saw with my own eyes. Indeed, not even half of the greatness of your wisdom was told me. You have far exceeded the report I heard. How happy your people must be! How happy your officials who can continually but I did not believe what they see. Still, and I came and see with my own eyes. Indeed, did not half the generation of your wisdom was told me. You have your officials who continually stand before you and hear your wisdom. Praise be to the Lord your God, who has delighted in you and placed you on his throne as the king to rule for the Lord your God, because of the Lord and his desire to be upheld and placed you on his throne as a king to rule for the Lord your God. Because of the love of your God for Israel and his desire to uphold them forever, he has made your own to maintain justice and greatness." Then she gave the king 120 talents of gold, large quantities of spices, and precious stones. There had never been such pieces as those the king of Sheba gave to King Solomon. The servant Hiram and the servant of Solomon brought gold from Ophir. They also brought argumud and precious stones. The king used the argum wood to make a step for the temple of the for a period. They also brought argum wood. The servant of the Hiram and the servant of Solomon brought gold from Ophir. They also brought algum wood and precious stone. The king used the algum wood to make a step for the temple of the Lord and for the royal palace, and to make harps and lyrics for the musician. Nothing like them had ever been seen in Judah. King Solomon gave the king of Sheba all she desired and asked for. He gave her more than she had brought to him. Then she left and returned with her retinue to her own country. Solomon's splendor, the weight of the gold that Solomon received yearly, was six talents, not including the revenues brought in by merchants and traders. Also, all the kings of Arabia and the governor of the territories brought gold and silver to Solomon. King Solomon made 200 large shields of hammered gold. 600 shekels of hammered gold went into each shield. He also made 300 small shields of hammered gold with 300 shekels of gold in each shield. The king put on the Then the king made a great throne covered with ivory and overlaid with pure gold. The throne had 6 steps, and the footstools of gold was attached to it. On both sides of the seat were aramists with a lion standing beside each of them, which then the king made a great throne covered with ivory and overlaid with pure gold. The throne had 6 steps, and the footstools of gold was attached to it. On both sides of the seat were armrests with a lion standing beside each of them. 12 lions stood on the 6 steps at either end of each step. Nothing like it had ever been made for any other kingdom. All King Solomon's goblet were gold, and all the household articles in the palace of the first of Lebanon were pure gold. Nothing was made of silver, because silver was considered 그리고 이게 considered. Solomon said, so then nothing even in his kingdom. All King Solomon's goblet were gold, and all the household articles in place of the poorest Lebanon were pure gold. Nothing was made of silver, because silver was considered of little value in Solomon's day. The king had a fleet of trading ships manned by Hiram's servant. Once every 3 years it returned, carrying gold, silver, and ivory, and apes and baboons. King Solomon was greater in riches and wisdom than all the other kings of the earth. All the kings of the earth sought audience with Solomon to hear the wisdom God had put in his heart. Year after year, everyone who came brought a great article of silver and gold, and robes, leather, and horse and mules. Solomon had 4,000 horses and chariot, and 12,000 horses, which he kept in chariot cities, and also with him in Jerusalem. He ruled over all the kings from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines, as far as the border of Egypt. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and the cedar. Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horses, which he kept in the chariot city, and also with him in Jerusalem. He ruled over all the kings from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines, as far as the border of Egypt. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and the cedar as plentiful as sycamore fig trees in the foothills. Solomon's horses were imported from Egypt and from all other countries. Solomon's death, as per the other events of Solomon's reign from beginning to end, are they not written in the records of Nathan the prophet, in the prophecy of Ahiah the Shilonitist, and in the vision of Iddo the seer concerning Jeroboam son of Nubat. Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years. Then he rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David. His son, David his father, and Lebanon from his son succeeded him as kings. Amen.